I never expected to revisit Escape from Tarkov. Competitive hardcore FPS games aren't my cup of tea. Despite that, I managed to foolishly convince myself it was worth a look into, and cemented my opinion from there. To start, I opened the game, dropped in, and aimlessly wandered until I was shot from behind and callously slurred at. It was not a great first impression, and while it's hardly a rare or uncommon experience online, especially in gaming, the moment illustrated full well Tarkov probably wasn't for me. I play enough toxic video games as is with my crippling MOBA addiction. However, I was caught off guard when my friends all decided to try Tarkov, rather again or for the first time, when the modding scene first exploded. I'm not here to endorse or admit online cheating. I believe in sportsmanlike conduct in online games. Instead, I want to discuss a specific mod, SPT, or Single Player Tarkov. Instead of reaching out to a server, SPT engineers your client to call out to a locally hosted server, the infamous 127.0.0.0 IP. Loopback. SPT allowed me to traverse Tarkov against only NPC threats and learn and enjoy the game at my own pace. It substitutes online features, such as the player market, with a simulated one, and guarantees a smooth, offline playthrough, with other tweaks as well. Not to mention SPT allows ease of adding additional mods, so if the basic scav and PMC NPCs are too easy, anyone can turn the difficulty up with more mods. SPT is a genuinely amazing tool to play Escape from Tarkov for practice or a simply more curated play. For me, it facilitated a casual experience and let me enjoy everything Tarkov had on offer without involving the many online pitfalls I ran into. On the surface, EFT was something I found extremely intriguing. Survival looter shooters aren't common, and many survival looter shooters don't commit or prioritize the two core concepts of gunplay and survival elements cohesively. Fallout and The Division are great examples of games that feature a mix of these elements but fail to fulfill the role properly. The Division nails the setting and the sense of progression with more of an RPG approach, but fails to be a survival game, and personally has issues with its shooter RPG mechanics, such as when enemy scaling creates bullet sponges that ruin the fun. Fallout 4 suffers because, bluntly put, it doesn't prioritize anything. It's a hodgepodge collection of genres trying to be an everything open world immersive sim, and failing to be specifically polished or exemplary at any one facet. The only two other games that come to mind is the critically acclaimed Metro series, which is more survival horror FPS, and the issue there is that it lacks the non-linear, player-emergent narrative experiences that can only occur in a more open environment, the kind that defines the survival genre. And I guess the last and only game that I've played that fulfills the criteria is the janky, buggy, and adored 7 Days to Die, but at the moment I wanted something a bit more polished and to play by myself. Tarkov manages to achieve being a survival looter shooter not held back by the jank or the RPG systems, but instead manages to be a focused and powerful interpretation of what I so desperately desired. Its pursuit of hardcore and realistic features actually enhance the overall experience, whereas most games only increase difficulty with these same pursuits. Survival games in general are one of the few games that, in my eyes, benefit from realistic systems. In other games, the frustration of survival outside of the survival genre forces the audience out of the flow and out of their immersion. But in a survival game, it's the whole point, and the player has tempered expectations to withstand those frustrations. Tarkov leaps over the typical RPG shooter complaints by indulging its survival cohort's desire for realism and skipping the bullet sponginess that most looter shooters have by being realistic. Replacing bullet sponges is a mostly equal playing ground, featuring a quick time to kill. Against an unarmored target, any bullet can one-shot headshot kill. However, there's room to survive, and the swift kill time doesn't always equal a swift firefight. Everyone can take a body shot. They can actually take quite a few. The bullets themselves aren't that lethal. It's the bleeding and lost vitals that'll get you. A blown out stomach will starve and dehydrate the target. Broken legs will make them an easier target. Take out their arms, and it's harder for them to fight back. And a headshot kills. Modern medicine and self-aid allow us to patch most of these wounds. A heavy bleed has a variety of solutions. An S-march, for example, which then turns it into a light bleed, which a simple bandage can fix. Health or HP needs an IFAK, or these craft-looking single things. A blacked out limb needs a CMS kit, which is much rarer than the rest, but it'll restore that limb and negate any of its negative effects. There's much needed depth in how a bullet is taken, not just given. Ducking behind cover to stop a lethal bleed delays the firefight, and creates an opportunity to rush up with a shotgun and get caught out. Or maybe give you or your opponent time to reload or heal up yourself. It's the little things that add complexity and creates opportunities for decision making. It's the variety and the fun that keeps the fun going. Variety is the antithesis of repetition and the sponsor of flow. That is to say, beyond the initial depth, variety, and player autonomy in the gunplay, there's additional customization in the gun you bring and the way it's altered. There's no way to cover everything. The quantity of guns, the dedication to their authenticity, the level of modular customization, the east versus west weapons argument. And outside the guns, there's quest items, valuables, upgrades, crafting materials, all essential to overall player progression. It's too much to all cover at once. The joy of the game comes down to learning your favorite guns, discovering if you're an east or west kind of gun guy, finding your comfort budget build. It's all essential to the rewarding item progression in Tarkov. Learning how to be cheap and efficient and how to be gaudy and wasteful is essential, because once you get rich, the payoff is throwing that money away, not to mention the progression behind quest and hideout upgrades. It's fun making a shopping list and hunting for parts out in Tarkov. Little incremental upgrades as you go makes the experience improve over time, and as it gets easier, I'm allowed to tackle larger and larger challenges. The true payoff is building enough econ and being able to afford bougie builds and throwing some runs away. Sometimes it's fun expecting not to come back alive from Tarkov. These bougie builds involve affording the capability to do gun porn. Gun porn is the process of remodeling a gun from the ground up and making something truly special or especially abominable. Or having enough cash to purchase several spec op builds and explore the deadly night at your own risk. All that's well and good, but the last and possibly the most rewarding element is getting good. Climbing the skill curve without the pressures of online PvP is incredible. It ties into discovering the best budget guns, and continues with finding your favorites, aka the classic Makarov for me. It goes further to talk about learning about mechanics like ammunition and guns, learning about slugs and shotguns with their surprising range and consistently lethal damage, stopped only by any amount of plates and snipers that outrange you. Seriously, the realistic factor that shotguns can fire as far as they do is broken and arguably too realistic to be in a video game. Even just learning your favorite ammo type to conserve maximum space and stash is rewarding. All these little details add up, but what's especially fun is memorizing the maps. Why does Escape from Tarkov, SBT, feel like a roguelite? There's the easy routes, the safe routes, the profitable routes, the ones that'll put some hair on my chest. Furthermore, loot spawns have tendencies, a range of item types that are more likely than others, or even some that are guaranteed to be certain gadgets. Seriously, every time I spawn, I glance at my second monitor at a static map, orient myself, and what follows feels like planning a path and slay the spire. At the halfway point, I may be hurt badly and have to change course, or lack anything to lose and start feeling risky. It feels akin to the entire roguelite genre. It isn't just a roguelite in technicality, it feels like one, which I guess makes sense, but in the moment it just sounds bizarre. Tarkov, a roguelike, it's wild. And it doesn't just borrow the genre, it borrows that same rewarding loop of optimizing choices each escape. It's really fun. But the cherry on top has got to be the apocalyptic vibes Tarkov emanates. It's the core reason why I think it's actually inspired by the Stalker series. There's a charm to the Eastern Bloc as an apocalyptic wasteland, no doubt inspired by, and excuse me if I butcher it, I always do, Strugatsky's Roadside Picnic, that Tarkov fulfills in a more grounded manner than, say, Stalker. Prowling through concrete jungles and urban areas, or through the bountiful but eerie forest, captures an essence of beauty almost indescribable. It's supported by robust graphics and impressive ambience. The stray gunshots echoing from afar, birds chirping in the forest, the pitter-patter of steps or the creaking of doors. Tarkov surprisingly shines in auditory performance, beyond what I expected, which was that all the effort would be in the guns, not in the ambience. So I'm really impressed by the overwhelming quality present throughout. Plus the limited HUD and odd hardcore mechanics such as having to manually check ammo by inspecting your clips or cocking your gun, and the constant pressure to look and listen for threats combined with the ambience forces the player into the moment, immersing them easily. Overall, EFT supports plenty of reasons for investment. It demands an ounce of curiosity, usually smothered by the toxicity and online pressure. But there's a way to enjoy all the intense gunplay, skill curve climbing, progression, and empowerment as you explore the immersive world present. Online, it's diminished by cheaters, voice chat, requiring a WAN connection, and the combination of the steep learning curve and a competitive player base. Not to mention the wipes which threaten progression. Tarkov SPT facilitates an environment to learn and immerse in EFT without hassles of online play, which is sort of priceless. The issues I've mentioned are real, deadly for a lot of players. The player base is diminishing as cheaters are allowed to run rampant, and many have left due to the demands of a second 9 to 5 that just isn't worth it anymore. Queue times are a nuisance, and many would rather skip them entirely. None of this is to say Tarkov's dying, but there are frustrated parties looking for an alternative. If you don't want to hear slurs or be punished for not playing 24/7, or deal with the wipe FOMO because, by the way, they reset all the progress seasonally, and to skip all those obstacles, the first leap might be to indulge Single Player Tarkov. The issue is that Tarkov's developers, Battle State Games, are vehemently against any modification or reverse engineering, no matter how small, of their game. They want to ban the modders, but thankfully, so long as you stay offline with the modded files, they have no method of tracking who's modding or not unless you openly admit it online. Their stance is built upon the existing practice mode. Everything taken into this practice mode survives, and no loot escapes it. It can be tackled cooperatively or independently, but misses the point entirely. There's no accommodation for the casual or more casual. There's no supporting any interested party with a weak or no online connection. They don't offer an option to skip the progress wipe. An alternative option for Battle State would be to mimic Path of Exile style with seasonal leagues with unique content, but also have a persistent standard league where seasonal characters retire, standard characters stay, and players can skip the wipes. It solves the issue and accommodates everyone, wipe enjoyers and nots. But to be blunt, Tarkov doesn't practice this Path of Exile style. It doesn't accommodate, and it doesn't offer an opportunity to casually progress through the game. Initially, I bought Tarkov and didn't really play it. I wouldn't have played it. I actually should have refunded it a long time ago. But I didn't. And SPT made that worthwhile. Optimally, I want Battlestate to support or incorporate the SPT modders, or at least the concept, because those modders have made something fantastic. And I want Tarkov to add accessibility so more can participate in what feels like a hidden gem stuffed behind an annoying connection-based wall. Escape from Tarkov wasn't fun for me until I played it using the SPT mod. Battlestate Games' stance against SPT is ridiculous, arguing that their offline mode is sufficient despite it not offering a full experience nor accommodating players lacking robust internet connectivity is genuinely kind of gross, especially because they're trying to kill the only alternative available. But all that being said, I do love and enjoy Tarkov. Escape from Tarkov is addicting, and beyond that, it's one of the best FPS games I've ever played. It actually sits up there with Titanfall and the Halo trilogy mechanically. I'd recommend it to anyone wanting a methodical and lethal shooter with outstanding atmosphere, systems, and mechanics. Few games capture its gunplay, and fewer still feature survival and looter mechanics as developed as Tarkov's. I highly recommend it. Regardless of what Battlestate says, SPT should stay. Modding is a skeleton key. It creates an opportunity for art to appeal to more people and open more doors to entertainment. Without it, I would have never enjoyed Tarkov, endorsed Tarkov, or even talked about it.